Welcome to Tinfoil Talks.
Hi, I'm Justin, and this is Seb. Welcome to the Tinfoil Talks.
This week we're going to be talking about platform capitalism and mainly focusing on Uber.
Yeah, so to give a brief overview, platform capitalism is basically this new thing that's coming out of Silicon Valley, in which allows people to develop mobile apps that change industries by storm, and they don't really require much capital at all. So it allows a person without much investing power to seriously change an industry, and Uber's doing this quite a bit. So right. Seb, you're a young, cool, hip guy. What do you know about Uber?
I would say as a young, hip guy, I would say that I know that Uber. Sorry.
No, don't worry.
No.
What do you think Uber is?
I do believe that Uber is this app that connects customers to drivers for basically a cabbing service.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a mobile app. Yes. It's a ride-sharing service. It's changing the for-hire car service industry.
Mm-hmm.
What else would we need to know? It started in 2008.
Yes.
It's valued at $40 billion, so it's
Wow.
a big deal. It's not.
It's
definitely
deal. It's grown.
Yeah. Yeah. So my first question for you, Seb, is: do you think taxis are safer than Uber? Taking an Uber.
I would disagree with that. And I would say that I don't think taxis are any safer than Ubers, just because they provide the exact same service. They have the same safety regulations as a cab.
Right.
I don't see.
Do you see any problems with? I mean, Uber is a huge company, and if you fit their regulations or their standards, you can just sign up as a driver. So as long as you meet them on paper, you can be an Uber driver. What do you think about that?
That's a very valid point. I could see the implication of not having that personal connection between the company and the driver, so that when they hire someone, they don't really know exactly what they're like as a person, as long as they fit the bill on paper.
Yeah.
So I guess I could see how you might not get the characteristics that you want in a driver. In that sense.
Now, Uber's also been known to enter the market. They've been using their capital reserves to keep wages on drivers are artificially low. So it's convenient for a consumer, and it's really cheap right now.
Right.
But what do you think of that in terms of its competition towards a taxi driver by a company not really taking the toll, but pushing all of the costs down on the lowest person, the frontline service worker.
Right. Well, I think that's Uber's way of basically getting rid of any competition in the market, right?
Right.
So, from Uber's perspective, I would say that's an incredible business model, in a sense that they're able to drive down costs, which eliminates competition without hindering them as a company. But unfortunately, the problem is that requires really, really hurting your frontline drivers, because they're unable to make them the amount of money that they should be in order to sustain as an Uber driver.
So do you think it's scary that you could be a few people and you can make an app, and all of a sudden you become really, really rich and you're widening the income gap? You would become a billionaire or multi-billionaire, and all of a sudden hundreds of thousands of people who are barely making ends meet are now even working harder to make that income.
Right. That's definitely scary, and that's the direction we're going to as a society. Like you said before, with platform capitalism and just all these tech startups in the Midwest, I'd say it's detrimental to our society in terms of the overall well-being of the vast majority of people that like you said, are barely making ends meet and now having to work even harder for it.
Yeah, it's scary stuff.
It is pretty scary. Yeah.
Well, recently, members of the Tinfoil Talks interviewed the owner of Sackville Cab, Larry.
Yes.
So we'll cut to that now, and we'll listen to that interview and his opinions on Uber versus taxi.
So how long have you been been involved in the taxi industry?
I've owned it for 14 years.
Okay. And that's kind of all been in Sacramento?
Yeah.
Okay. And when did you first hear about Uber?
I moved 2 years ago.
And what were your original thoughts?
Well, it's not fair to people. They're taking people's livelihood away, and they're not paying for it. For one, it's a big thing. Like, they want to license their cars and they want to pay the dues, and let them go for it. But and pick their clientele up. They're only picking clientele up now because it's cheap. You know, they don't realize that if they have an accident, they're not gonna. You know, like if you have an accident in a personal car, it's fine. But if you have an accident where you pay money, they're not gonna. You know how you. If you get hurt bad, they're not gonna pay for it.
Right.
You know, because they don't have insurance to cover it. You know, because you have to have special insurance to which costs a lot of money for it. Have it.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the increasing popularity of the Uber?
Well, I don't know because I don't know nothing about it. I don't
Right.
know it's picking up or, you know, I hear about it. That people are just doing it on their phone and they're getting picked up.
Yeah, it's kind of a bigger city.
Yeah,
Kind of like-
it'll never come here
No.
because, you know, somebody would probably get hurt.
You're right. For the bigger cities, do you think it's going to end up affecting cab industry?
Oh, it's affecting it, that's for sure. But I really think people's going to start getting hurt here pretty soon. You know, because if they take your livelihood and you meet them in the corner somewhere, you and the other guy, what's going to happen?
Right.
You know, especially with somebody in a little Chevette that's only short, little guy. It's only a matter of time. You know, because like in Toronto, you know, a car and a license is worth probably $100,000. And if he loses it, because it's not worth nothing now, right? It's going to be worth $100,000. People kill for less than that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. When you see news articles about Toronto, the city of Toronto intervening and trying to kind of be the middleman in these negotiations, what do you think about that? Do you think it should be a debate just between Uber and taxis, or should municipal or provincial or even federal government get involved?
Well, to me, there should be a law coming that they're not allowed to work unless they pay for the insurance and pay for the license. You can have a taxi here if you want. You could have it in town, you license the car, you do all the paperwork, you can have a taxi here tomorrow. Well, not by tomorrow, but if you want to do it, which is fine. Like, and you want to pick up your customers, they're picking their customers up because they're half the price, but they're not paying the full. You know, just a license show a car here is $3,500 a month or a year, PLPD. That's it. You know, they're only paying for regular insurance, which is probably $500 a year. There's one, you know, and they didn't pay for no license. That's all I say. It's not fair.
Do you think that people tend to use Uber because it's easy, even if they aren't
It's
thinking
cheap.
about the liability problems?
That's right, because one guy I picked up and he said, "You don't have it here." I said, "No." And I explained to him, he said, "Well, that doesn't matter to me." I said, "But it would. When it come down, you're in the hospital and nobody's paying your bills and you have to pay for it out of your pocket because insurance says we're not liable for that. What's going to happen? How would you feel?" It's okay till it happens. You know, you're lying in the hospital and they say you owe $150,000 for all these operations because you were in a car that's not, and you were, I don't know how they call the insurance. It's a liability insurance, but it's, you know, I have to carry $2 million liability in case something happens to you. You know, or if you sue, you can't go sue them because you can't sue them for the insurance company won't let them.
Yeah, because they're just drivers.
As soon as he says, "I paid for this cab ride and I got hurt," too bad.
Yeah, because technically they're not taxi drivers, right? They're just
No, that's no different. There's people around here who keep trying it too, and the students don't realize if he goes off the road with that car and they get hurt, I know they're getting away cheap, but
yeah.
you know, we between Mount A and us, you know, and there is squires too. Like we do it pretty reasonable. Like you know, if you can go to the airport for $30 at probably the most of you put enough in the car, you can't get the airport any cheaper than that. You know, so this guy does it for 20, but you go off the road and get hurt, and but just nobody realizes it until it happens, and nobody cares till it happens, you know. And then they want to know why. Well, it's your problem. You're the one that took the cab, right?
Say somebody were to get into an accident, do you think the popularity of Uber would go down once everyone sees the insurance?
No, because
issues?
people are worried about money. Like, it's always, oh well, that never happened to me. Right? They'll still use it. I think the biggest scare I'm gonna see is people are really gonna get, I don't think people are gonna start getting killed over it, you know, because it won't stop when they start, you know. Or they're gonna find out whose car it is, they're gonna be doing something to the car that, and they will. It's just a matter of time. Like, so you gotta catch them. So you gotta be there, but see, the guys are probably trying to do their own work and be at another place at the same time, but they'll get a group together and they'll start getting the car to the company, and you'll find a car on a back road somewhere that's smashed bell and somebody did it. You know.
What's the cost of registering and licensing a taxi in New Brunswick?
Well, you have to run a special plate to start with, PRP plate, you have to inspect them every 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get pulled over, they can take the car right off the road, which that's another thing with these other cars.
So it's
You
no
know,
initial cost and a
you know,
lot
they're
of,
going down the road with wheel wobble and stuff, but who cares?
yeah.
You know, there's no law saying they have to have a car that's right on the road or nothing. And like insurance is $3,500 a year for the minimum. Now, if you want to go higher, well, it almost triples, you know, the moratorium one, but you just can't pay it. Not survive, for sure.
Yeah.
Plates are the same price for plates, except you have to buy a special plate, like an H plate. But you see a taxi and have an H plate on it. Other than that, that's probably about it.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions?
No, I'm good.
I think that's perfect. That was awesome. Thank you.
Oh,
Thanks for coming in.
All right, we're back, and that was a good interview from Larry Parsons of the Sackville Cab Company, and he made some very valid points about how Uber was not entirely insured, and actually since then they have gotten themselves insurance, but it. Would you like to?
It's a little
explain
gray.
more about that. Yeah.
Because what they've done is by pushing a lot of the wage down so they can enter the market, they're keeping these prices artificially low. And when a Uber driver is trying to make ends meet to feed their family, so many drivers are driving Uber just with their personal car insurance. So if they were to register their car with Uber as a commercial driver, it could cost them up to 5 times as much, right?
Yes.
So when they're just driving with their personal car insurance, if they get in an accident, then they are liable for the insurance that would be claimed basically because they're earning income above this. Now, Uber says they claim that an Uber X driver will make $90,000 a year, the average Uber X driver. Right. Now, according to CAA, a mid-sized car in Ontario costs its owner about 54 cents per kilometer after accounting for fuel, for insurance, license fees, depreciation, and maintenance. So for Uber X drivers, that's an average cost of $4.17 per trip. So Uber drivers earning more than $30,000 also have to pay HST on this. So that adds to about $1.50 more on top of that per trip. So what BuzzFeed did is they did this really cool test where they took a sample of drivers and they calculated their costs, and it said, so this claim that an Uber X driver makes $90,000 a year, by the time they get rid of all their costs, they're only making about $38,000 a year. So we see this from Uber time and time again where they're making claims like you are insured through us or you make so much money per year, but in fact that isn't really
The truth.
the truth.
Right.
Yeah, so what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's almost criminal that they'd be allowed to make such outlandish claims like that,
Mm-hmm.
yet show no substance behind it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
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 Definitely. Yeah,
do
getting
you-
some nods from the
Yeah.
audience here. They agree.
Insurance Bureau.
Insurance Bureau.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Driving to generate income.
Yeah, we talked about that. We just talked about
Yeah. So I actually have a question for you. Do you think that Uber will fix these issues, such as like when they lowered the amount of money made by frontline drivers? Do you think that they'll fix that issue and increase costs once they've monopolized the market, essentially?
Yeah, but the scary part about that is once they have monopolized the market, the consumer no longer has a choice as to what they're going to do. Right now, their taxi fares will differ, and you can kind of make like a price-based decision on what you want to take.
Mm-hmm.
But once they've monopolized the market, they can raise prices all they want, and there's nothing really the consumer can do about it, and they'll just have to basically get around the city in a more expensive fashion.
Right.
So as costs will increase, I'm sure we'll see Uber also increase their fares to make sure that the shareholders and the people that kind of have started the company are seeking the excessive profits that they want.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about labor laws. Remember how you mentioned that, like, since
so yeah,
you know.
So another weird thing about Uber is it's actually been argued in court as to whether the Uber drivers are actually employees, because it's all contracted work. So it's almost like they're an associate of Uber, but they're not actually employees. So it allows them to kind of like move beyond a lot of the things that a company would owe a full-time worker, like benefits and health packages and stuff like that. So basically what they've done is they've removed all costs associated with being a business for the purpose of profiting these few people. So I guess I want to ask what you would think, like what do you think about that? But a company kind of moving around the gate so it can kind of be more profitable by injuring its employees, basically.
Right. This seems to be a trend in more recent new companies, as they've found ways to get around get around laws that are meant to protect the general population in terms of, you know, their frontline workers and stuff. And I think that's pretty scary, because now legislation has to catch up and really make sure that these companies are treating people right, you know, because it's scary when a low end, or when a minimum wage worker doesn't get any benefits and has to deal with all the liabilities that could happen
while not earning enough.
Exactly, while also not earning enough. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think those are our hot takes on Uber, right? Yeah. Thanks for tuning in to the Tinfoil Talks. This has been Seb and I and Larry and Brent and Tanner talking about Uber and platform capitalism. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good job.
Definitely looked away and back to the camera like 4 times.
Hey,